When the Fun is Over, a short story by Oscar Wilder. Read by Oscar Wilder. I could feel something lurking in the shadows. Whenever I walked through my home, I felt a presence waiting in the darkness between dimensions, trying to manifest itself in our world. At first, I thought I was imagining things, that perhaps I had heard too many horror stories or had been too engaged with horror movies lately. However, there was something undeniably unsettling about the darkness in my house. Did I mention I made a nightclub my home after finding that renting out two spaces, one for personal use and another one for entertainment, were a complete waste of money. What was once the VIP space became my new apartment. Growing up, I used to think the same being hid beneath the stairs. I imagined it waiting for the precise moment I turned off the lights to reach out, grab me, and drag me into another dimension, a hellish place where I would be at its mercy. Back then, I would sprint up the steps to avoid the trap, my heart racing. A cold, unnerving sensation would wash over me every time. Eventually, I stopped letting those thoughts cloud my judgment. I began to walk up the steps calmly, as if nothing were there, even remaining in the dark for a bit to prove that it was all in my overworked imagination. But this was different. This wasn't the childhood monster lurking under the bed, ready to grab my ankle, or hiding in the closet waiting to be set free. This was much more tangible. Now, when I turn off the lights, I see a pair of yellow, human sized eyes dimly watching me as I leave a room. When I turn back to look, there's nothing but shadows and furniture, yet the image lingers in my mind. I brushed it off initially, but as time passed, the presence felt increasingly ethereal yet pervasive. It would also seem to appear when I looked at mirrors. I usually only manifested in the dark, but recently I've begun to hear the slow creak of a drawer opening in another room, the beeping of electronic devices that should be silent, and the sounds of things falling or rustling in the distance. To save my sanity, I made excuses: the HVA system, animals outside, or the neighbors. Yet the present is growing stronger, feeding me increasingly negative thoughts. I see a large demonic figure, dark gray with pitch black horns, looking at me with disgust and hunger from the gloom. It is an opaque vision that is slowly feeling and looking more real. Normally, my moods fluctuate like anyone else's, but recently, darker impulses have begun to creep in. I find myself contemplating dire consequences for anyone who crosses my path, or imagining how to handle situations in a much more impactful and aggressive manner. My tolerance has vanished. Just when I could feel these thoughts beginning to take over,